They desired her crown, but she desired only a moment of love. The Palace of Light stood above the clouds of the capital world. It was built from white stone and clear crystal that shone under the twin suns. From far away it looked soft and beautiful, like a dream. But inside its walls lived fear, secrets, and power. On the highest balcony stood the young queen. Her name was Elora. The silver crown rested on her head. Thin lines of blue light moved across its surface like living veins. The crown was not only a symbol, it was a machine older than most stars in the sky. Through it she could command fleets, armies, and even the great defense shield around the planet. Every ship in orbit answered to her thoughts. Many across the galaxy desired that crown. Few cared about the girl who carried it. Elora looked down at the city below. Towers reached towards the sky. Traffic lanes of flying ships moved in perfect order. From this height, everything seemed calm. But she knew it was not calm. Reports of unrest had arrived all week. 3 powerful warlords from the outer systems had begun moving their fleets closer to Imperial space. They claimed it was routine patrol. No one believed that. Inside the throne hall, the High Council waited for her. She turned from the balcony and walked back inside. Her long white robe followed behind her. Guards in dark armor stood in 2 straight lines along the walls. Their faces were hidden behind silver masks. The doors of the throne hall opened as she approached. The council members bowed when she entered. Some bowed deeply. Others only lowered their heads slightly. Even small gestures showed hidden thoughts. Elora sat on the throne of crystal. It rose slightly above the floor. Soft light filled the room. A tall man with gray hair stepped forward. His name was Lord Varos. He had been her regent when she was a child. He had helped guide the Empire after her parents died in war. "Your Majesty," Varos said calmly, "the outer fleets grow restless. We must show strength. If we hesitate, they will see weakness." Another council member spoke. "The human delegation has arrived in orbit. They request permission to land." A quiet murmur moved across the hall. Humans were new to the galactic stage. Their world had only recently joined the greater alliance of species. Many older races saw them as emotional and unpredictable. Varos frowned slightly. "This is not the time for new friendships. We should focus on our own stability." Elora listened without changing her expression. "Let them land," she said. The hall fell silent. Varos studied her face. "May I ask your reason?" "Because we are not at war," she answered simply. "And if we treat every new voice as an enemy, we will soon stand alone." Some council members nodded. Others looked displeased. The meeting continued for hours. Trade routes, border patrols, energy shortages in the mining worlds. Every decision passed through her. Every decision rested on her shoulders. When the session finally ended, Elora felt tired, but she did not show it. The Queen did not show weakness. Later that evening, a small shuttle descended from orbit. It carried 3 human diplomats and a few guards. Their leader was a young man named Aaron. Aaron stepped out onto the landing platform and looked at the shining palace with quiet wonder. He wore a simple dark uniform, nothing bright or royal. His eyes moved carefully, taking in every detail. He knew humans were not fully trusted here. One mistake could damage Earth's position for years. A palace officer greeted them and led them inside. From a hidden balcony above the grand hall, Elora watched their arrival. She did not know why she felt curious. She had met hundreds of diplomats from many species. Most only wanted something: power, trade, protection. Humans were different. They had little power compared to the great empires. Yet they had survived many wars on their own world. They were stubborn, creative, dangerous in quiet ways. That night, a welcoming banquet was held in the grand hall. Long tables filled the room. Lights shimmered across the ceiling like stars. Elora entered last. Everyone stood. Aaron saw her clearly for the first time. She looked young. Younger than he expected. But her eyes were not young. They carried years of loss and responsibility. He bowed respectfully. During the meal, polite conversations filled the air. Music played softly.
Servants moved between tables. Aaron finally found himself standing before the throne platform.
Your Majesty, he said carefully, Earth thanks you for receiving us. Elara is enough in private settings, she replied. He hesitated, surprised. Then thank you, Elara. A few nearby nobles exchanged uneasy looks at his use of her name. You traveled far, she said. What does Earth seek? Partnership, he answered. We know we are new. We do not come to demand. We come to learn. Her eyes studied him. He did not seem afraid. Nervous, yes, but not afraid. Before she could reply, a sharp sound cut through the music. A blast. The windows at the far end of the hall shattered inward. Dark figures rushed through the smoke. Energy weapons flashed. The room exploded into chaos. Guards raised shields. Guests screamed and ducked behind tables. Elara stood from her throne. The crown on her head began to glow brighter as it connected to the palace defense systems. Another blast shot toward the platform. Aaron saw it before she did. Without thinking, he moved. He stepped in front of her just as the energy bolt struck. His body armor absorbed part of the blast, but the force threw him backward. He crashed against the steps of the throne. Elara felt the impact through the air itself. The crown pulsed with power. In one instant, she could have sealed the hall and crushed every attacker with gravity fields. But many civilians were still inside. Instead, she chose precision. With a thought, security drones dropped from the ceiling, shields locked into place around the guests. Palace guards advanced in perfect formation. Within minutes, the attackers were either captured or dead. Silence slowly returned to the hall. Smoke drifted through broken glass. Elara knelt beside Aaron. His breathing was weak but steady. Burn marks covered his uniform. "Medical team," she ordered. They rushed forward. As they carried him away, Varos approached her. "This proves my warning," he said in a low voice. "Your enemies test you. They grow bold." She did not answer. Her eyes followed the humans as they hurried beside their injured leader. Later, in the quiet medical wing, machines hummed softly. White light filled the room. Aaron lay unconscious inside a healing chamber. Elara stood outside the transparent wall, alone. She could feel the palace security system still scanning for threats. She could feel the fleets in orbit waiting for her command. But here, in this room, there was only the slow rhythm of a human heartbeat. He had moved without hesitation, not for power, not for reward, simply because it was right. She had not felt someone choose her safety over their own in many years. Behind her, soft footsteps approached. It was Captain Torin, leader of the Royal Guard. "We captured 2 attackers alive," he reported. "They refused to speak. Their equipment is advanced. Not common mercenaries." "Inside help?" she asked. He hesitated. "Possible."
That word carried weight. If the attack came from within the palace, then the danger was closer than she thought.
"Double security around the council quarters," she ordered. Torin bowed and left. Elara remained. After some time, the healing chamber opened. Aaron stirred, wincing in pain. He saw her standing there and looked confused. "Did we survive?" he asked weakly. "Yes," she replied. He tried to sit up, but failed. "I hope I did not break any palace rules." A small, unexpected smile touched her face. "You broke several." He relaxed slightly. "I apologize. You stepped in front of an energy blast meant for your queen. I stepped in front of a blast meant for a person," he corrected gently. The words hung in the air. No one had spoken to her like that in a long time. Most saw only the crown.
"Rest," she said quietly. As she turned to leave, he spoke again.
"Why do they want to hurt you?" She paused. "They do not want to hurt me," she answered. "They want what I carry." He understood. After she left, her expression changed. The softness disappeared, Determination returned. High above the planet, hidden in deep orbit beyond normal sensors, a dark ship drifted silently. Inside, a shadowed figure watched recordings of the attack. The figure spoke to unseen officers. "She did not use the crown's full power," the voice said. "Interesting." She hesitates. On the display, the moment replayed where the human moved to shield her. "Emotional weakness," the figure continued. "We will use this." Back in the palace, Varro stood alone in his private chamber. He looked out at the city lights below. His reflection stared back at him in the glass. "Peace through strength," he murmured softly. "She must learn." He tapped a hidden control panel built into his desk. Far beneath the capital, deep under layers of ancient stone, something large and mechanical stirred. Lights flickered on in massive underground docks, long believed to be abandoned. Warships, old but powerful, waiting. In the medical wing, Aaron drifted back to sleep. In her private chamber, Elara removed the crown and placed it carefully on its stand. Without it, the room felt quieter. She touched her temple where its weight usually rested. For a brief moment, she allowed herself to feel the fear she had hidden all evening. Enemies outside her borders, possible traitors within her council, and now a human who had risked his life for her. She walked to the window and looked at the stars. Across the galaxy, many desired her crown. They believed power was the ultimate prize. They did not understand that the crown was also a chain. And for the first time in many years, she wondered what it might feel like to live, even for a single moment, without its weight. Above the planet, the hidden fleet adjusted its position silently. The real storm had not yet begun. Elara woke before dawn. The first rays of the twin suns barely touched the palace towers, painting them gold and silver. Outside, the city moved quietly, unaware of the danger hidden in its heart. Inside, the palace never slept. Guards patrolled the halls. Monitors scanned every corner. But no system could fully guard against betrayal. Elara sat alone in her private study. The crown rested on a black velvet stand, silent now, its soft glow gone. She could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on her chest. The events of the previous day played over and over in her mind. The human who had risked his life, Aaron, had left an impression she could not understand. Something in his courage had stirred a feeling she had long hidden beneath the duties of a queen. It was dangerous to feel. Dangerous to hope. And yet, she could not ignore it. Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock at the door. "Enter," she said. Torin, her captain of the guard, stepped in. His face was tense, his dark uniform marked with the insignia of the royal guard. "Your Majesty," he said quietly, "we have finished questioning the captured attackers." "And?" Elara asked. "They are trained, not mercenaries. Their weapons and tactics suggest they were sent by someone with access to palace codes. Someone close." Elara's hand rested lightly on the edge of her desk. "Inside the council?" she asked. Torin nodded.
"It seems so."
"Only a few people could bypass the palace defenses like that. We must consider that one of your advisors, or perhaps someone higher, is not loyal."
Elara frowned. Years of training had prepared her for war, for politics, but not for this.
The idea that betrayal lived within the very walls she trusted most was unsettling. She stood and moved to the window. Below, the city stretched across the plains, peaceful and unaware. Could they see the danger hiding among them? Could they feel the tension before it struck? "Have you checked the palace communications?" she asked Torin.
Any suspicious transmissions?
"We are monitoring everything. There are small signals, encrypted."
"Someone is trying to reach ships in secret, but we cannot trace the source yet." Elara pressed her fingers to her temple. The crown would have helped. With its power, she could sense threats, read intentions, even control security. But she had been hesitant to use it fully in the attack yesterday. The civilians, the human diplomat, the chaos, it had limited her actions. Her caution had saved lives, but it also showed weakness. She thought of Aaron. He had acted without hesitation, without calculation. guided only by instinct. How strange, she thought, that instinct could sometimes be stronger than experience. The morning passed in preparation. Elara summoned the human delegation to the council chamber. Aaron, despite his injuries, walked with careful dignity. His bandages were clean, his uniform pressed. Nothing in his appearance revealed the pain he had endured. "Your Majesty," he said softly when he entered, "I wish to apologize for the chaos yesterday. I only wanted to ensure safety."
You did more than that, Elara replied.
"You reminded me that courage is not measured by rank or crown." Aaron's eyes met hers for a long moment. Neither spoke. Outside, the first sun rose fully, scattering the shadows across the marble floor. The council chamber was tense. Lord Varos took his seat, his expression tight. "The outer fleets continue to move," he said. "We must decide our next steps. The attackers show the vulnerability of our security. The council must act decisively." Other members nodded. A few whispered, glancing at Aaron as if he were an intruder in their galaxy, not a guest. Elara's attention remained on the humans. The way Aaron moved among the council reminded her that sometimes bravery came from simple truths, not cunning plots.
"We must investigate every channel," she said finally.
"No ship may leave or enter without approval, and we will identify the source of the attack immediately." Torin bowed.
"Orders will be carried out." "Good," she said, "and let the human delegation observe our efforts."
"They are allies, not spies." Aaron inclined his head. "We are honored." After the council meeting ended, Elara walked through the palace gardens. The flowers and trees were artificial, yet carefully maintained, glowing faintly with their own light. She liked this place. It was quiet, safe, even if the walls around it were full of whispers. A soft sound behind her made her turn. Aaron stood there, leaning against a railing, his eyes serious. "May I speak with you?" he asked. She considered for a moment, then nodded. "Walk with me." They moved among the glowing plants in silence. Finally Aaron spoke. "Why do you fight so hard for a crown that brings nothing but danger? I've never seen someone so young carry such weight." Elara stopped and looked at him. His words were simple, but they carried something deeper. Understanding. Empathy. "The crown is not mine to question," she said. "It is the responsibility of my bloodline. If I refuse it, the empire may fall into chaos. Or," he said quietly, "perhaps you can change what it means to carry it." Her heart skipped. The crown was more than metal or power. It was tradition, history, judgment. No one had ever suggested she could choose differently. She shook her head lightly. "That is not possible." "Perhaps you have not tried," he replied. The words stayed with her long after he left. For the first time in her life, she wondered if she could be something other than a symbol. As night fell, the palace lights reflected across the twin moons. The city was quiet, but danger moved even in the darkness. Torin reported that the attackers' communications had been traced to a secret network beneath the capital. Ancient passages, long thought abandoned, led deep underground. Old warships had been hidden there, waiting for a signal. Elara considered the possibilities. The crown could command them, destroy them in a single thought, but she hesitated. Her judgment was no longer only about power. She thought of Aaron and his quiet courage. Could she find a solution without bloodshed, or would hesitation cost her everything? The night passed in restless planning. Spies, traitors, hidden fleets, every decision weighed against the lives of her people. And somewhere in the darkness, the shadowed figure who had observed the palace from orbit waited. The human had acted boldly, but the queen had hesitated. That moment of doubt would be used. Elara finally retired to her chamber. She removed the crown, setting it carefully on its stand. For a moment she let herself breathe. For a moment she allowed herself to feel. She thought of the human's words again. Perhaps you can change what it means to carry it. Tomorrow she would decide how. The twin suns rose slowly above the capital planet, painting the city in shades of gold and pink. From the palace balcony, Elara looked at the ships in orbit. They were not just the ordinary patrol vessels. She could see hundreds of sleek warships hidden in cloaked positions, waiting. The Shadow Fleet had moved closer during the night, silent and patient. Inside the throne hall, the council gathered again. Lord Varos stood tall, his gray hair catching the early light. His expression was grim. "Your Majesty," he said, "our sensors report movement in the lower docks. Enemy ships have activated jump drives. They can be in orbit in hours." Elara listened quietly. Her mind was racing. The attackers from yesterday had been only a test. The real strike was coming now. She thought of Aaron, still recovering in the medical wing. His courage had saved her life, but this time, the danger would not be so easy to stop. "Alert all defense systems," she commanded. "Bring the palace drones online. Lock every gate. Do not allow anyone to enter or leave without my order." Torin, the captain of the guard, bowed. "Orders will be carried out." Elara turned her eyes toward the council. "And we must find the traitor who aided them. If we cannot trust those closest to us, we have no defense." Barris's eyes narrowed. "It is likely inside the council, Your Majesty. Someone with knowledge of the palace network." A younger council member, Lady Maris, spoke carefully. "Perhaps we should consult the human delegation. They see the galaxy differently. They may offer ideas we cannot consider." Elara hesitated. Most humans had little power, yet she had seen that Aaron's quick thinking and courage had saved many lives. "Very well," she said. "Bring him to the strategy chamber." Aaron entered, still moving carefully. His bandages covered burns and bruises, but his eyes were alert. He bowed to the Queen.
"You requested my advice?" "Yes," she said. "I want your thoughts on an incoming fleet."
"We have numbers and firepower, yet the enemy moves faster than our calculations. How would you face such a threat?" Aaron studied the maps and holo displays. "You are strong but predictable," he said. "You have weapons that can destroy their ships, but hesitation and overcaution may give them openings. You must act in a way they do not expect. Use smaller forces where they cannot predict." Varos frowned. "A human? You suggest splitting our forces against a superior fleet?" Aaron did not flinch. "Numbers do not always win. Coordination, timing, and unpredictability do. You must use what you have in ways they cannot anticipate." Elara watched him. His words were simple, yet they carried clarity. Unlike many advisors, he spoke truthfully, without fear or personal gain. Perhaps this was why she had trusted him instinctively the first day she met him. "Prepare the fleets," she said finally. "Split into decoys. Let the enemy think they are attacking a single weak target, then strike together at the moment they are vulnerable." The council murmured, some skeptical. Barros's lips pressed into a thin line. "If this fails, the capital will be destroyed and the empire may fall." Alara's eyes were steady. "Then we will make it succeed." The next hours were tense. Ships moved into their positions in orbit. Pilots practiced maneuvers. Sensors scanned constantly for hidden threats. Torin coordinated palace defenses, checking security and reinforcing patrols. Meanwhile, Aaron moved among the humans and alien crews, explaining strategy and timing. His presence inspired confidence. Where humans were weak in technology, they made up in instinct and communication. It was a small difference, but it could save lives. High above, the hidden enemy fleet approached silently. Cloaking fields made their ships almost invisible. They moved in tight formation, ready to strike the palace directly. The shadow figure who had observed the previous day's events smiled. The Queen had relied on strategy, but her hesitation still lingered. That flaw would be exploited. At midday, alarms blared. Sensors picked up multiple jumps from the enemy fleet. Ships that had been hidden far away now emerged in orbit around the capital planet. The council and palace staff watched as hundreds of warships surrounded them. Varos turned to Elara. "They are more numerous than we estimated." Elara's hand rested lightly on the crown. Its soft glow pulsed, sensing her thoughts. The crown could command orbital defenses, fire beams that could destroy fleets, even shield the palace from attack. Yet she hesitated. If she used it fully, half the capital could be at risk. Civilian lives weighed on her mind. "Activate shields," she ordered. "But hold the main weapons until I give the signal." The warships advanced. The first shots were fired. Energy beams sliced through space, striking decoy vessels. Explosions lit up the darkness. Smaller skirmishes flared across the orbital lanes. Aaron's strategy began to work. Decoy ships drew enemy fire away from the main palace defenses. Smaller Allied forces moved to intercept isolated enemy ships. Timing and coordination gave the defenders an edge, but the battle was far from over. Suddenly, a large enemy ship broke through the outer defense. It moved directly toward the palace. Sensors could not track it clearly. Torin's team scrambled to intercept, but the ship was fast, its weapons deadly. "Elara!" Varro shouted. "They are coming too close!" She stepped to the balcony, looking at the approaching ship. For a moment panic rose, but she pushed it down. This was her duty. She had faced dangers before, but never one so immediate, so personal. "Prepare emergency shields for the palace," she ordered.
All non-essential personnel to safe zones.
Aaron ran beside her.
We cannot let that ship hit the palace.
"I will lead a strike team."
You will not risk yourself alone, she replied. We fight together. The palace drones activated.
Energy barriers extended outward, meeting the enemy fire. Beams struck the advancing ship, but it remained strong. Its hull was reinforced. It would reach the palace in minutes. Aaron and a group of skilled pilots launched interceptors, weaving through debris and enemy fire. The battle above the capital became chaotic, yet strangely precise. Each movement counted. Every second mattered. Inside the palace, Elara monitored the shields, adjusting power to protect civilians while giving her forces freedom to strike. Her focus was complete. She was no longer the young queen who hesitated at the edge of battle. She was a commander, a protector. Despite the chaos, her mind returned briefly to the human who had saved her. He had been injured once before, yet now he fought again, bravely leading pilots into the thick of the enemy formation. She realized then that courage could inspire others more than any crown could. Minutes passed like hours. Explosions lit up the skies. Fires broke out on the decoy ships. Energy beams clashed in blinding flashes. Yet the enemy flagship continued its direct path toward the palace.
Then Aaron made a bold move. He led a squadron through the blind spot of the enemy's shields, aiming for the ship's exposed energy core.
Torn provided support from palace defense turrets. The squadron's attack hit true. The enemy ship faltered, its trajectory faltering. Sparks and smoke erupted as critical systems failed, began to spin uncontrollably, veering away from the palace just in time. Elara exhaled slowly, relief washing over her, but it was brief. More enemy ships were in orbit, and the main fleet still waited. This was only the beginning of the larger battle. Later, in the quiet of the palace medical wing, Aaron was patched up again. His uniform was torn, armor scorched, but his spirit remained unbroken. Elara visited him, watching as he adjusted bandages and spoke quietly with other pilots. "You risked yourself," she said softly. Again and again. He looked at her. "We are all risking ourselves." "You have inspired us, Your Majesty." "Or perhaps Elara," he said, lowering his voice. For a brief moment the world outside vanished. The crown, the war, the enemy fleet, all of it faded to the background. She saw only him and the courage in his eyes. "You are reckless," she said quietly, though a small smile touched her lips. "Perhaps," he admitted, "but sometimes reckless is the only way to survive." She shook her head lightly, but her heart beat faster than she wanted. The crown sat nearby, glowing faintly. Power could solve this problem in seconds, but she knew that using it fully might destroy everything she sought to protect. The rest of the day passed in tense preparation. The enemy fleet regrouped in orbit, waiting for the Queen to make the next move. Messages from hidden scouts indicated that more warlords were joining forces. The capital planet would not survive if attacked by their combined strength. Elara stood on the balcony again that evening, The city lights shimmered below, and the twin moons reflected across the sky. She thought of Aaron, of the human courage she had witnessed, and of the Shadow Fleet still hidden, still waiting for the perfect moment. She realized that the crown was not the only way to protect her people. Strategy, loyalty, and courage could win battles. But to win the war, she would have to take risks no queen had dared before. Somewhere beyond the clouds, hidden and silent, the Shadow Fleet adjusted its position. The enemy observed every movement of her ships. They knew. The queen hesitated. They knew she valued life over destruction. That hesitation would be used against her. Yet in the palace, Aaron rested. And for the first time in a long time, Alara allowed herself a single thought, that perhaps even in the darkness, courage and loyalty could shine brighter than any crown. The city below the palace was quiet in the early hours. Smoke from the previous day's battles still drifted over the towers, but life continued. People repaired buildings, cleared streets, and whispered about the queen who had faced a shadow fleet and survived. Yet Alara did not walk among them. She remained in the palace, her eyes on the stars above. The enemy fleet was still in orbit, waiting. Their numbers were greater than she had feared. Warlords from distant systems had joined, uniting under a single command. Every ship was armed, ready to strike, and the hidden shadow fleet still lurked beyond normal sensors. The palace could not survive a direct attack from so many forces at once. Alara walked to the council chamber. The humans were gathered there, observing the strategies being discussed. Aaron moved among them, speaking softly with engineers and pilots. His calm confidence brought a strange peace to the room. "We cannot fight them with numbers alone," Aaron said, pointing at the holomap. "Their ships are stronger, and they have hidden reinforcements, but they cannot predict what they cannot see. We must make them believe they have the advantage, then strike where they least expect it." Varos frowned. "You propose a human strategy for a galactic war? They may die needlessly." Alara's eyes met his. "Perhaps they may. But if we do nothing, we all die." Aaron nodded. "It is not about power. It is about coordination and trust. If you trust your people, they will follow." Alara considered this. Trust was something she had little experience with. Since her parents' death, she had learned to rely only on herself, on the crown, and on strategy. Yet Aaron had shown her a new way. Courage combined with belief in others could change outcomes. She gave the orders. Small ships would act as decoys, drawing the enemy's attention away from the palace. Hidden fleets of smaller allies would strike from unexpected angles. Communication lines would remain encrypted and timing would be everything. As the preparations continued, a messenger arrived from one of the outer worlds. His ship had dodged enemy patrols to reach the palace. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing low, "we wish to join your defense. Our fleets are small, but we have fought against the same warlords before. We know their tactics." Alara studied him carefully. "We accept your help," she said. Even small forces are valuable if used wisely. The palace became a hive of activity. Engineers moved between the docks, preparing ships. Pilots ran simulations. Guards reinforced the palace walls. Alara herself walked among them, giving quiet orders, correcting mistakes, and encouraging the weary. Torrin joined her at one point. "The human delegation is helping more than we expected. They inspire loyalty and courage." Alara nodded. "Yes. And sometimes courage can do what weapons cannot." The first engagement began in the late afternoon. The decoy ships moved outward, drawing fire. Enemy sensors focused on them, ignoring the hidden smaller fleets approaching from different directions. Explosions lit the skies above the city, but the palace remained safe. From the balcony, Alara watched, her heart steady but tense. Each moment counted. One wrong move, one miscalculation, and the capital could be destroyed. Aaron's squadron led a precise strike against an isolated group of enemy ships. Energy beams tore through the hulls, disabling them without destruction. His human pilots moved with unexpected speed, dodging fire and leading the enemies into traps. The Shadow Fleet waited silently in the distance, not yet revealing its power. Their commander observed every move, studying the Queen's tactics. He had seen her hesitate before. He expected her to hesitate again. Inside the palace, Varos grew uneasy. "You are relying too much on these humans," he said.
They are brave, yes, but inexperienced. They may lead you into disaster. Elara did not answer.
She had seen the results. Bravery and coordination could turn the tide against larger numbers. Power alone did not guarantee victory. As night fell, the palace lights glowed across the city. The battle in orbit continued. Enemy fleets regrouped, attacking in waves, but the decoy strategy continued to work. Smaller Allied fleets struck from unexpected angles, disabling ships and forcing the enemy to scatter. Yet despite their success, the main threat remained. One enemy flagship, larger and stronger than all the rest, moved directly toward the palace. Cloaking fields kept it hidden until it was almost too late. Torin's team scrambled to intercept, but the ship was fast and armed with devastating weapons. "Elara!" Varos shouted. "They are too close." She turned to the crown, feeling its power calling to her. She could destroy the flagship with a thought, fire energy beams that would eliminate all nearby ships, but doing so would risk the city below. Civilians were still present, and she could not allow them to die, even for survival. "We will act differently," she said quietly. "Precision, not destruction." Aaron appeared beside her. "I will lead a strike team through the blind spot. We can disable it before it reaches the palace." "You are still injured," she said. "You cannot risk yourself alone." He shook his head. "I must. This is our best chance." Elara hesitated, but then she realized that courage sometimes required risk. "Go," she said.
But you will not act alone.
"Torin and I will coordinate support from here."
The strike began.
Aaron and a squadron of human pilots moved through enemy fire, weaving through gaps in the defense. Energy beams and explosions lit the skies, but the team remained precise, targeting critical systems of the flagship. Inside the palace, Elara directed the remaining defenses. The crown amplified her commands subtly, guiding drones and turrets with exact timing. Every movement mattered. Every second could be the difference between survival and disaster. The flagship faltered. Systems failed one by one under the squadron's attack. Sparks and smoke erupted as the ship spun out of control. It was pushed away from the palace just in time. Elara exhaled slowly, relief washing over her, but there was little time to celebrate. The enemy fleet was still in orbit, regrouping for the next attack. She knew that this battle had only delayed the inevitable. In the quiet of the medical wing, Aaron was patched up again. His uniform was scorched, armor damaged, yet his spirit remained unbroken. Elara entered, watching him as he adjusted bandages and spoke quietly with his pilots. "You risked yourself again," she said softly. He looked at her and smiled faintly. "We all risk ourselves. You have inspired us, Your Majesty. Or perhaps Elara," he said, lowering his voice. She allowed herself a small smile. "You are reckless," she said, though there was no anger in her tone. "Perhaps," he admitted, "but sometimes reckless is the only way to survive." She shook her head lightly, feeling the weight of the crown still nearby. Power could solve this problem instantly, but using it fully would destroy everything she sought to protect. The night passed in tense vigilance. Scouts reported that more enemy ships were moving into hidden positions. Warlords from distant systems were preparing to join the assault. The palace could not survive a full attack without clever strategy. Elara returned to the balcony, looking at the city below and the stars above. Her thoughts drifted to Aaron, to the courage she had witnessed, and to the shadow fleet that waited silently. She realized that victory could not be won by power alone. She needed bravery, loyalty, and trust among her people and allies. In the distance, the hidden fleet adjusted its position. The Shadow Commander had studied her carefully. He knew the Queen's hesitation, and he planned to exploit it. Yet in the palace, Aaron rested, his spirit still unbroken. And for the first time in a long time, Alara allowed herself a single thought. Courage could shine brighter than any crown. Above the city, enemy fleets watched, calculated, and waited. They knew the queen was clever, but would cleverness be enough against numbers and hidden betrayal? The next battle would test everything: loyalty, strategy, and courage. Alara's eyes remained on the stars. She understood now that this was no longer just a war of fleets. It was a test of human courage, of loyalty, and of the strength of a queen willing to risk everything for her people. The twin moons reflected softly across the palace towers, a quiet reminder that even in darkness, hope could shine. Tomorrow, the enemy would strike again. And this time Alara would have to face it not only as a queen, but as a person willing to make impossible choices. The morning light spilled across the city, but there was no peace. Smoke from the orbital battle still drifted over the towers, and emergency crews moved quickly to repair the damage from the previous attacks. The people whispered about the queen who had faced hundreds of enemy ships and survived. Some called her brave, others called her reckless. Alara, however, felt none of their words. She felt only the weight of what was to come. The enemy fleet was gathering again in orbit, stronger now. Reports indicated that hidden reinforcements from distant warlords had joined the ranks. Hundreds of new ships, armed with weapons more powerful than anything she had faced before, waited silently. Their flagship, damaged in the last attack, had been repaired and reinforced. Cloaking fields made it almost invisible, and intelligence suggested it would strike directly at the palace in the next wave. Inside the throne hall, the council gathered for urgent strategy meetings. Torin, ever vigilant, paced along the perimeter. Varro stood at the front, eyes narrowed. "Your Majesty," he said, "we are outnumbered. Even our allies cannot match their combined strength. If they breach our defenses, the city will fall, and thousands will die." Alara studied the holographic map projected in the center of the hall. Red symbols marked enemy fleets, blue symbols marked her forces, and the allied ships from outer worlds. They were outnumbered, yet she could see a pattern. The enemy relied on brute force, expecting fear and hesitation to dominate her choices. "I will not order the use of the crown's ultimate weapon," she said quietly. "It could destroy the palace, along with the fleet. We must rely on strategy and courage." Barros's eyes widened.
Your Majesty, that weapon could end this battle immediately.
"Why would you refuse?" "Because," she said, "I will not destroy the lives I swore to protect. There must be another way." Arryn stepped forward, bandages still marking his burns, yet his posture proud and steady. "Then we will fight differently. We will not rely on power alone. We will rely on timing, coordination, and surprise. Even the strongest fleet can be defeated when they expect only a straightforward attack." Alara nodded.
Then prepare the fleet. We strike not with strength alone, but with precision.
Every small vessel, every human pilot, every ally counts. Hours passed in preparation, ships were positioned in orbit. Drones moved in silence. Engineers checked weapon systems repeatedly. Pilots ran through simulations. Every second mattered. Then the first wave struck. Enemy ships emerged from hidden positions, firing energy beams at the decoys positioned far from the palace. Explosions lit the darkness, sending smoke and sparks into space. The decoy ships lured the enemy away, allowing Alara's smaller forces to strike at critical points. The palace itself was protected by shields, pulsing with energy, deflecting enemy fire. Inside, Arryn coordinated his human squadron with skill. Each movement was precise, each strike calculated to avoid unnecessary destruction. Yet even as victory seemed possible, a larger threat appeared. The enemy flagship, reinforced and cloaked, moved directly toward the palace. Sensors detected it late, and no amount of drones or defenses could stop it before it reached the central district. "Alara," Torin shouted, "they are too close. If we do not act, the palace will be destroyed." She stood on the balcony, looking at the stars. The crown's power pulsed, calling to her. She could obliterate the ship instantly. but doing so risked civilian lives. Her hands trembled slightly as she weighed the choices. Then she realized something. The crown had always been a tool, but it was not her only tool. Courage, loyalty, and strategy could succeed where power alone might fail. "Aaron," she said quietly, "lead a strike team. Disable the flagship before it reaches the palace. I will coordinate support from here." He nodded. "I will not fail." Aaron and his squadron moved swiftly through space, weaving through enemy fire. Torin guided palace drones to cover blind spots. Small allied fleets attacked the ship's flank, exploiting weaknesses in its armor. Sparks and energy flares erupted as systems failed one by one. The flagship faltered. Its trajectory wavered. Explosions tore through its hull. It spun out of control, missing the palace by mere meters. Relief swept through the throne hall, but it was brief. Other enemy ships were still in orbit, preparing to strike again. Alara's mind raced. The enemy would not stop. They would strike harder, faster, and in greater numbers. Using the crown could destroy them, but she refused to risk innocent lives. Every decision now carried enormous weight. She walked through the palace gardens seeking a moment of clarity. The soft glow of artificial flowers illuminated her path. She thought of Aaron and his courage. Humans were weaker in technology, yet stronger in instinct and loyalty. That courage could inspire others. A soft sound behind her made her turn. Aaron appeared, his bandages still covering burns, but his eyes bright with determination. "Your Majesty," he said, "I wanted to check on you."
"You did not rest last night."
"I do not sleep well before battles," she replied.
"You are human in heart as well as crown," he said softly. "You care more than anyone I have met." She looked at him, and for a fleeting moment the weight of responsibility lifted. She allowed herself to feel the warmth of trust and friendship. It was dangerous, she knew, yet it was also necessary. The next wave of attacks began in the afternoon. Enemy warlords' fleets emerged from deep orbit, attempting to encircle the capital. The palace defenses held, but strain showed. Drones were destroyed, shields weakened, and civilians were moved to emergency zones. Elara's voice was calm but firm. "All forces, adjust positions. Focus on coordination, not destruction. Protect the people first, the palace second." Aaron led another squadron of human pilots. They moved with precision, dodging beams and intercepting enemy ships. Explosions illuminated the sky, yet no panic spread among the defenders. Every action was calculated, every movement intentional. Yet the flagship, though damaged, continued its path toward the palace. Its systems were partially restored, and its weapons still deadly. Sensors struggled to track it accurately.
"Elara!" Torin shouted. "It will reach the palace in minutes!" She knew that hesitation could destroy everything. The crown could end the threat, but at a terrible cost.
Civilians were below, unprotected from the blast. She could not allow it. Then she made a choice. She removed the crown from her head and placed it carefully on its stand. The power was tempting, but she would not let it dictate her actions. She would face the danger with courage, skill, and strategy. "Aaron," she said, "you will lead the strike. Torin, coordinate support. I will guide the defenses and protect the civilians." The squadron launched. Aaron moved with precision, striking the enemy flagship's engines. Torin guided drones to intercept energy beams. All our allied fleets attacked from unexpected angles. Sparks and smoke erupted across the battlefield. The flagship faltered again, systems failing. It spun uncontrollably, narrowly avoiding the palace. Elara's coordination of the defenses and Aaron's daring strike had worked. The enemy was repelled, but the battle was far from over. Later, in the medical wing, Aaron was patched up, his armor scorched, uniform torn, yet his spirit remained strong. Elara entered quietly, watching him adjust his bandages and speak with his pilots. "You risked yourself again," she said softly. "We all risk ourselves," he replied. "You inspired us to fight not just with weapons, but with courage. And perhaps to trust."
Elara allowed herself a small smile. "You are reckless," she said, though she felt no anger.
Sometimes reckless is the only way to survive, he admitted. Outside, the city continued to repair, and the twin moons reflected softly on the towers. The enemy fleet, though repelled for now, remained in orbit. Hidden warlords and shadow forces still plotted. The queen knew that the next strike would be even stronger. Ilara stood on the balcony, looking at the stars. She realized that victory would require more than power. It would require courage, loyalty, trust, and strategy. She had learned that a single human's courage could change the course of battle. Perhaps, she thought, trust and bravery were stronger than any crown. The Shadow Fleet remained hidden beyond the normal sensors, waiting for the perfect moment. The enemy would strike again, more powerful, more cunning, and this time, the queen would need more than courage alone. Yet in the quiet of the palace, she allowed herself one thought. She would not rely solely on power. She would protect her people, fight with strategy, and trust those who had proven their loyalty, even if it meant risking herself. The real test was coming, and Ilara was ready, not as a queen wielding power, but as a young woman willing to make impossible choices to save her people. The city slept under the pale light of the twin moons, yet peace was only an illusion. In orbit above, the enemy fleet gathered once more. Cloaking devices hid dozens of ships, and the flagship, repaired and reinforced, waited silently. The warlords had joined forces, their combined strength far surpassing anything the capital had faced. Hidden among them, the Shadow Fleet observed every movement, studying the queen carefully, knowing her caution and her care for her people. Inside the palace, Ilara stood on the balcony, her eyes fixed on the stars. She felt the weight of the crown on her mind, though it rested beside her, untouched. She had learned that power alone could not protect the people. Strategy, loyalty, courage, and trust mattered more. She thought of Aaron, of his human bravery, and of the quiet way he inspired others to follow. It gave her hope, yet also fear. Tomorrow the enemy would strike with full force. Many would die if she failed. Torin approached quietly. "Your Majesty," he said, "all fleets are in position. Drones and defenses are ready. The civilians have been moved to safe zones. Everything depends on your command. Prepare everyone. Prepare everyone. This is the final strike. We must fight not only to survive, but to protect the lives under our care."
In the strategy chamber, the council waited. Varro spoke first.
"Your Majesty, the numbers are against us. If the enemy breaches our shields, the palace falls and thousands die. We must consider using the crown's full power." Ilara's eyes were steady. Dougal hand. "The crown is not the only solution. We will rely on courage and coordination. That is how we survive." Aaron, still recovering from previous injuries, stepped forward. "Then we strike together." Timing is everything. Every movement, every squadron must act in harmony. We will force them to make mistakes. The council members whispered among themselves, some doubtful. But Ilara's confidence was absolute. She had witnessed courage, even from those with little power, and she knew that determination could change the tide of war. The first wave of the enemy attacked as dawn approached. Explosions lit the skies above the city. Decoy ships drew fire away from the palace, and smaller allied fleets moved through blind spots to strike. Drones intercepted energy beams, protecting the people below. From the balcony, Ilara observed every move. Her hands hovered near the crown, not to use it, but to guide her mind, to sense danger. Precision and timing were everything. One mistake, one hesitation, could destroy all they had fought for. Aaron led a squadron of human pilots in a daring strike. They dodged beams, moved through debris, and disabled critical enemy systems. Sparks and energy flares lit the darkness, yet the pilots remained precise and calm. Their courage was contagious. The enemy flagship, though damaged from previous battles, moved again toward the palace. Cloaking fields kept it hidden, sensors delayed detection, and powerful weapons could destroy whole districts. Torin's team scrambled to intercept, but the flagship's path was too direct, and its speed too great.
"Ilara!"
Varro shouted.
"They will breach our defenses."
She stood firm. The crown pulsed with potential power, yet she refused to unleash it. Civilian lives below were too important. Instead, she focused on guiding her forces, coordinating strikes and protecting those in danger. Aaron's squadron maneuvered with daring precision. He led them through blind spots, striking the flagship's exposed engines. Torin guided drones and turrets to intercept energy beams. Allied ships attacked from unexpected angles. Every strike, every movement, was synchronized to perfection. The flagship faltered. Systems failed, one by one. Sparks erupted as critical components were destroyed. It began to spin uncontrollably, missing the palace by mere meters. Relief swept through the palace, but Alara knew the enemy had not yet given up. Hidden ships emerged from cloaking devices, moving into attack positions. Warlords' reinforcements had arrived. The final wave was coming, larger and stronger than any before. Alara gathered the council. This is the last chance. We will not use the crown. We will fight together. We will rely on courage, loyalty, and strategy. Every person counts. Every life matters. The council, inspired by her calm determination, prepared their forces. Engineers checked weapons, pilots adjusted simulations, and guards fortified the palace walls. Even the human delegation, led by Aaron, moved with quiet confidence, their courage fueling those around them. As the final wave approached, the palace shields held firm, but strain showed. Energy flickered along the edges of the barrier. Drones intercepted beams, but some strikes broke through to outer defenses. Fires erupted in space, sparks lighting up the dark void. Aaron led another strike squadron, weaving through enemy fire with precision. Sparks and debris scattered across space as they disabled warships, forcing enemy pilots to react under pressure. The Queen guided drones and defenses, adjusting shields to protect critical areas. The enemy flagship, though weakened, moved again toward the palace. Its weapons glowed with the destructive energy. Sensors indicated it could destroy central districts if not stopped. Torrent's teams launched interceptors, and Allied ships moved in coordinated attacks. Alara watched carefully. Timing, coordination, and bravery were their only chance. The human pilot's courage inspired every soldier and engineer. Even the council, once doubtful, acted decisively under her guidance. The flagship faltered again. Its engines damaged, systems failing, and weapons offline. It spun out of control. Sparks and energy flares marked its destruction as it drifted away from the palace. The enemy fleet, seeing their flagship destroyed, hesitated. Confusion spread among the ranks. Alara seized the moment. She ordered a coordinated strike from all remaining forces. Decoy ships moved outward, while hidden fleets struck from behind enemy lines. Drones and turrets focused fire on remaining warships. Energy beams tore through hulls, disabling enemy ships with precision. By mid-morning, the enemy fleet was scattered. Ships fled, retreating to hidden positions. The Shadow Fleet, observing from beyond sensors, withdrew silently. Their commander had underestimated the Queen's courage and coordination, and the human pilot who inspired loyalty among her forces. The palace was safe. The city below remained unharmed. Relief swept through the halls. Engineers, pilots, and guards cheered quietly. The council bowed to the Queen. Varos, usually solemn, allowed a faint smile. Aaron, though exhausted and still bandaged, approached her. "We did it," he said softly. "Yes," she replied, "but only because we fought together." Courage, loyalty, and trust were stronger than their numbers and weapons. He looked at her, and for a brief moment the world outside disappeared. "You were brave," he said, "not just because of the crown, but because of yourself." She allowed herself a small, quiet smile. "It is easier to be brave when others fight beside you." The city below began to celebrate quietly, repairing damage, rebuilding trust, and honoring the courage of those who had protected it. The twin moons reflected softly across the palace towers. Alara returned to her private chamber. She placed the crown carefully on its stand, untouched by battle. Its glow was soft, almost gentle, as if acknowledging her choice. She rested for a moment, feeling the weight of responsibility lift slightly. Torin entered quietly. "The enemy has retreated beyond sensor range. They may return. But for now, the city and palace are safe. Elara nodded. And we will be ready. Not with power alone, but with courage and strategy. We fight for the people, not the crown. Later, she visited Aaron in the medical wing. He was resting, tending to minor injuries. You fought bravely, she said. You inspired us, he replied. And you trusted us. That made all the difference. Her eyes softened. Perhaps sometimes courage and trust matter more than any crown. He smiled faintly. Yes. And sometimes a single moment of courage can change everything. Elara watched him, thinking of all the battles, the danger, and the choices she had made. The crown had been desired by many, but it was not what she valued most. Life, courage, loyalty, and love, even in small moments, were far more precious. The palace lights reflected across the twin moons. The city was alive, the people safe, and the enemy defeated, for now. Hidden threats still existed, but the queen had learned that the greatest power was not in a crown, nor in weapons, but in the hearts and courage of those willing to fight for what was right. Elara stood once more on the balcony, looking at the stars. Somewhere out there, enemies still plotted. But she was no longer alone. Aaron, her allies, and her people had shown her that courage, loyalty, and trust were unstoppable forces. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to feel a sense of peace. Perhaps one day, she thought, she could also allow herself a single moment of love. A quiet hope amidst the chaos. That thought was dangerous yet comforting. The Shadow Fleet remained hidden beyond sensors, but its commander would hesitate before striking again. The Queen had proven herself clever, courageous, and decisive. The crown had been desired by many, yet she had chosen something far greater. The courage to protect her people and the wisdom to trust. Above the city, the twin moons reflected softly across calm waters. The night was quiet. The battle was over, and for the first time Elara allowed herself to believe that even in a galaxy full of danger, hope, courage, and perhaps love could survive. The war was not finished, but the Queen had discovered the greatest power of all. Not in a crown, but in the hearts of those willing to fight with her, beside her, and for a moment of something greater than power alone,